Story Evans Tries an O-Level, Part 4. Now, Class 12 students, I have taught the first part of the story in 3 parts. So, I will be giving the links in the description box. So, please follow the story from the part 1 as it is continuing. So, it's a very interesting story. If you understand, then it will be always very easy for you to answer in your board exam. So today I will do page 81 to 84. So just a little recap of the lines where I had left in part 3 of the explanation of this story. So at 11:22 a.m. Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Hurry, man. Stephens picked up the phone apprehensively. So what is the meaning of apprehensively? That is in a very anxious way, in a very worried way. And listened to the rapidly spoken words. So I hope you remember the story that in the Oxford prison, Evans was imprisoned, and the secretary of the board exam, he had asked the different ways how to keep Evans very much imprisoned in the jail while he was giving the O-level exam of German language. Now the governor is the head of the main authority of the Oxford prison, and there are the 2 other prison officers, Jackson and Stephens. Jackson is the senior prison officer and Stephens is the junior prison officer. So the exam has started, and McLeery, the churchman who had come from St. Mary's Mag's Church, he was the supervisor in the exam. So while he was giving the exam, the phone rang and Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. Who is Jackson? Jackson is the senior prison officer. He is the senior prison officer. And he is calling at Stephens. Stephens is at the door where Evans is appearing for his O-level exam. The governor wanted to speak with him. Hurry, man. Stephens picked up the phone apprehensively and listened rapidly to the spoken orders, that is to the instructions. Stephens himself was to accompany McLeery to the main prison gates. So what was the instruction given? That Stephens was to accompany McLeery. Who is McLeery? He is the churchman or the clergy, you can say, who is invigilating the events appearing for the O-level exam. So he is the clergy. Clergy means a person who works in the church. Understood? Stephens personally was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McLeery had left the cell. Understood. So Stephens very well understood the instruction that Evans' door had to be locked very carefully after McLeery, who was invigilating the Evans appearing for the exam, will leave the cell. At 11:25, so here is the time I have given. At 11:25, the governor heard the final exchanges. That is, the final exchanges means the final instructions, the final order given by McLeery to Evans. The final talks. So now I start from today's portion. Page 81. McLeery, stop writing, please. So who was McLeery? McLeery was a churchman who was invigilating at the time of the exam when Evans was appearing. Silence. So after he gave the order, to stop writing, as when you appear for your exam, the invigilator tells in the end to stop writing so that the invigilator can collect the examination paper. Silence. McLeery, put your sheets in order and see they are correctly numbered. So McLeery also gives the instruction to put the answer sheets in order so that they are correctly arranged, correctly numbered. After that, again there was silence. Now students, by now you have understood, must have understood that how the entire plan was done by Evans with his accomplices to escape the jail, to break the prison for the 4th time. Now all these are the accomplices. The McLeery who had come to invigilate, he was also an accomplice of Evans, and all the people who will be assisting him to escape from the prison were his accomplices. Silence. Scraping of chairs and tables. So from outside Stephens could hear scraping of chairs and tables. Means scraping means what? When chairs are moved, that is called scraping of chairs and tables. Evans, thank you very much, sir. McLeery, all right was it? So McLeery asks Evans that did he answer everything? Was the exam all right? Evans, not too bad. Now Evans is just making a false pretext to appear for the exam. But he actually did not even know German. These were all the different ways by which he is building his way out of the exam, out of the prison. McLeery, good. So McLeery tells Evans that it is good, that it was not too bad. He did not appear write so badly for the German exam, O-level German exam. Mr. Stephens, then he calls out to Mr. Stephens, very loudly he calls out, Mr. Stephens. The governor heard the door clang for the last time. The examination was over. So the governor is a different person. The governor is the head of the prison. He says that he heard the door clang for the last time and the examination was over. How did he get on, do you think? Asked Stephens as he walked beside McLeery to the main gates. So the instruction was given to Stephens that he would be escorting McLeery to the main gate of the Oxford prison. So Stephens very casually asks McLeery that how did he get on? Means who is this he? This he is Evans. That how did he write? This is Evans. He asks McLeery while he was accompanying him to the main gate. Oh, I cannot think he distinguished himself, I am afraid. So McLeery says that he is quite sure that Evans must not have written very well. His Scots accent, that is his Scots accent means his Scottish way of speaking. Scots means a person of Scotland. Seemed broader than ever. That is, he emphasized when he said this word. It was broader means it was very thick than ever. And his long black overcoat reaching almost to his knees fostered the illusion that he had suddenly grown slimmer. So the long overcoat which was reaching to the knees, that fostered means that gave the idea that how come he had suddenly grown slimmer. Now students, I hope you are following it. Actually what? McLeery was an accomplice. I hope you are understanding this word. They are not friend. When people help in some crime, they are called accomplice. So he was an accomplice of Evans. When he had come to the in the beginning to the prison to invigilate, he had worn 2 long coats. So one coat Evans had been given and he was wearing in the prison cell. Why? Because Evans would be impersonating McLeery. Impersonating means he would be disguised as McLeery. So when McLeery goes out, he suddenly looks slimmer because he was wearing one coat. Students, if you don't understand any part where I am explaining, or if you have any doubt in any part, please write in the comment box. I will give you the answer. Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson to see McLeery off the premises, and all in all the morning had gone pretty well. So now in the whole story we see that all the officers are overconfident of their actions, and just under their nose Evans escapes from the prison. They are unable to understand the plans of Evans because they were too much confident about themselves. So Evans was very pleased that the morning had gone pretty well. There was no problem. But students, you must remember that all the planning, everything was done in the time of the examination. So, and he was very pleased, Stephens was very pleased that he was seeing off McLeery at the premise, out of the premises. But something stopped him from making his way directly to the canteen for a belated cup of coffee. So after he escorted McLeery off the premises, something was making him worry, and he could not go for the cup of coffee belated. Belated means delayed. Delayed cup of coffee, because he had not taken a cup of coffee in the morning, so it may be a little late. So it was something was worrying him, and he goes back. He wanted to take just one last look at Evans. It was like a program he had seen on TV about a woman who could never really convince herself that she had locked the front door when she had gone to bed. So I hope you remember that the instruction given to Stephens was that he should lock the door properly after he leaves the cell of Evans. So same thing was occurring in his mind, that he had seen us on the TV, a program on TV, that the woman was not convinced whether she had locked the front door when she had gone to bed, and often she would get up at 12:15, sometimes 20 times to check that the door was locked or not. So with the same doubt, he also thought that whether he had locked Evans carefully in that cell or not. He re-entered the D wing, that is the D wing side of the Oxford prison, made his way along to Evans' cell, and opened the peephole once more. Oh no, Christ no! There, sprawled back in Evans' chair, was a man. So he looked through again the peephole, and what did he see inside? That a man was sprawling means lying down on Evans' chair. There was a man. He could not understand that whether that person was Evans or somebody else. Was a man. For a semi-second, Stephens thought it must be Evans. For a semi-second means half a second, he thought that it must be Evans only. A grey regulation blanket slipping from his shoulders. So here what? A grey regulation blanket. Now these regulation blankets are actually used by the police in the police department to hide something or to cover something. So I hope you remember Evans had asked for a blanket because it was chilly. He was feeling a little cold that time. And it was slipping from his shoulders. The front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair, awash with fierce red blood. So what was it? He saw that it was the blanket was slipping from his shoulder, and his hair was closely cropped. Here it is, closely cropped, irregularly tufted, that is the hair was tied up. Awash means full of the flow of red blood, which had dripped already through the small black beard. That is from the hair, the red blood was dripping, and it came down to his small black beard, and was even now spreading horribly over the white clerical collar, and down and down into the black clerical front. So the blood was oozing, it was dripping down on the black beard, and it came down on the white clerical collar. Clerical means the collar which the clergies wear, the high neck collar it is. So the clerical means what the clergies wear. Clergy, I told you earlier, they are the churchmen. Into the black clerical front, that is, the blood was all dripping on the dress of the clerical collar and the clerical front. Stephen shouted wildly for Jackson, and the words appeared to penetrate the curtain of blood that veiled McLeery's ears. For the minister's hand felt feebly for a handkerchief from his pocket. So the minister means what? The clergy, the priest, the clergyman. Alright, that is, his hand felt feebly, means very weakly, from a handkerchief from his pocket, and held it to his bleeding head. So what was he doing? Actually, this person was Evans only, and he was impersonating McLeery. Who? Evans. Evans was impersonating. impersonating. Alright, this is impersonating. Wait. Write it clearly, otherwise you will not understand. So what was he doing? He was impersonating. Evans was impersonating McLeery, means he was acting like McLeery. I hope now you are having a very clear picture. He disguised himself under that blanket. He wore the clerical collar, and he wore the white linen, he wore the beard, everything. He dressed himself while he was acting that he was writing for the exam. And McLeery had come in the prison cell with two sets of clothes he was wearing, and one set he gave to Evans to dress like McLeery, the minister, and one set, of course, he was wearing. Therefore, he was looking slimmer when he was escorted by Stephens to the main gate. I hope you all are understanding now. But his voice trailed away, and by the time Jackson had arrived and dispatched Stephens to ring the police and the ambulance, the handkerchief was sticky, squelchy. Squelchy means a kind of liquid or mud when it is sucked in, that is called squelchy. Wodge of cloth, that is, the wodge means a little ball of cloth was full of blood. So what Jackson dispatched Stephens, Jackson sent Stephens to ring the police and the ambulance, and that the Evans, what they were understanding that Evans had escaped and McLeery was injured and kept back in the cell, which was not. McLeery slowly raised himself, his face twisted tightly with pain. Didn't worry about the ambulance man. Now McLeery, who was Evans, who was impersonating, Evans, who was in the disguise of McLeery, he said, "Didn't worry about the ambulance man. That is, don't worry about the ambulance. I am all right. I am all right. Get the police." So what did he say? He asked for the police to come. He asked that let the police come. Now this police which will be coming, that will be also the police van, everything will also be the accomplice of Evans. I know where he. So McLeery, Evans, who was impersonating McLeery, said that he knew where Evans has escaped. So the person who escaped was, in reality, he was McLeery only, and even the person who was in the cell was Evans only, but he was in the disguise of McLeery, and now he's telling that he is actually McLeery has escaped. McLeery is sitting there and Evans has escaped, hitting McLeery very hard. He closed his eyes and another drip of blood splashed like a huge raindrop on the wooden floor. His hand felt along the table, found the German question paper, and he was German question paper and grasped it tightly in his blood-stained hands. So what did he do? He grasped the German question paper and grasped it tightly in his blood-stained hand. That is, Evans was doing this. He grabbed German question paper and he held tightly in his blood-stained hand. Blood was drooping. Get the governor. I know where Evans. So now again Evans is misleading. He's saying, get the governor. Evans is again misleading them. Again misleading the prison officers. Misleading the prison officers. Okay, next you see. Almost immediately sirens were sounding. Prison officers barked orders, means they shouted orders. Puzzled prisoners pushed their way. There was a complete chaos in the prison, in the Oxford prison, that the police officers were running from here and there. They were shouting. They were all confused, puzzled they were, that how could Evans escape from the jail. But it was not so. This is the Evans who is in the cell, dressed as McLeery, would ultimately run away. Push their way along the corridors. Doors were banged and bolted and the phones were ringing everywhere. So it became a total confusion in the Oxford prison. And within a minute, McLeery, with Jackson and Stephens supporting him on either side, his face now streaked and caked with drying blood, was greeted in the prison yard by the governor, perplexed and grim. So, and within a minute what happened? McLeery. Now who is this McLeery? This McLeery is the Evans only, who is disguised in the dress of McLeery. He was supported by Stephens and Jackson on either side, and his face now streaked, that is, all blood had come down, and they were caked, means they were all, what happens, it clots, no, blood clots, no, as it becomes a little dry, with drying blood, and he was greeted, and they were greeted in the prison yard by the governor, who was perplexed and grim. So what was he? He was perplexed and grim. Perplexed means confused, and grim means serious. Why? He was overconfident. Governor was overconfident that nothing can happen. They were acting too strictly with the examination and disturbing events. This that he had also given said. We must get you to hospital immediately. I just don't. Yeah, you have called the police. So now this McLeery, who is in actually Evans, he is asking very, very cunningly to governor that had he called the police. Yes, they are on their way, but I am all right. Look here, awkwardly. Awkwardly means in a strange manner. He opened the German question paper and thrust it before the governor's face. It's there. Do you see what I mean? So everything is very planned out. In the German question paper, there was written also some name of the road on the question paper. The governor looked down and realized what McLeery was trying to tell him. A photocopied sheet had been carefully and cleverly superimposed. So I hope you remember that there in between, as the exam had started, there came a correction slip. So everything was planned very well. So it was cleverly superimposed, means it was pasted over the last originally blank page of the question paper. And on that, what is written? You see what they have done, Governor, you see. His voice trailed off again, and as the governor dredging, that is, he was clearing the layers of long neglected learning. That is, he was trying to recollect that what words were written on the question paper, willed himself to translate the German text before him. Sei sollen dem Skon, Betten, Plan, Geo, Folgen, der, all words which were in German language, and the governor was trying to recover those words by his little knowledge of German. You must follow the plan already somethinged. So, Evans is very, very, very particularly, he is making it clear that every plan was already somethinged, means already written. The vital point in time is 3 minutes before the end of the exam. Vital means important. 3 minutes before the exam, but something. Don't hit him too hard. Something means all the instructions written on the question paper. And then it was given, don't hit him too hard. Remember, he is a minister. So to make everything authentic, this Evans, who is impersonating like McLeery, he has given the question paper on which many things were written, which the governor tried to read. And then also this instruction was written not to hit too hard. Remember, because he is a minister, because McLeery is a minister, he is a clergyman, he is a churchman, and don't overdo. So what was the instruction given? Not to overdo. That is, not to overdo. Make a copy of the what to overdo. The Scottish accent, the Scottish way of speaking. Otherwise, what? He will be caught. So all these instructions were given. A fast approaching siren wailed, means it made a noise, it cried. To its crescendo means to its highest limit. The great doors of the prison yard were pushed back. Now the police car is coming. Pushed back, and a white police car squealed. That is, squeal means it made the sound of the brake. Squeal means the sound of the brake. To a jerking halt, that is, to stop suddenly beside them. Detective Superintendent Carter swung himself out of the passenger seat. Now who is it? The Detective Superintendent Carter. Now this is also an accomplice of Evans. Swung himself out of the passenger seat and saluted the governor. What's the hell happening, sir? And turning to McLeery, Christ, who's hit him? So all these are in helping Evans to escape the jail. So what did Superintendent Carter? He is not the real superintendent. He is a friend and accomplice of Evans. Christ, who's hit him? But McLeery cut across whatever explanation the governor might have given. Elsefield way. So McLeery means who? Here it is Evans. He cut in between and he prompted fast that he was telling as if that Evans, the McLeery who had gone out, he was pointing out that is Evans who had gone through the Elsefield way officer. So where had he gone? He had gone to the Elsefield way officer. I know where Evans is. He was breathing heavily and leaned for support against the side of the car, where the imprint of his hand was left in tarnished crimson. So he tried to take a support of the car, and the imprint of his hand was full of blood, and therefore it was tarnished crimson. Tarnished means some stain. Crimson is the red color. In bewilderment, Carter looked to the governor for guidance. So what is this? This is the in bewilderment. Right here it is it means in confusion. The Carter was actually acting, no? He was in confusion. He asked the governor for guidance. What? Take him with you if you think he'll be all right. He's the only one who seems to know what's happening. So Carter is also telling, he looked to the governor for guidance, and the governor also gave the instruction that it is only that person who, that is Evans, who was acting as McLeery and was giving all the evidence to take him. He is the only person who will be knowing. Carter opened the back door and helped McLeery inside, and within a few seconds the car leaped. Leaped means it jumped forth very speed. In a spurt means, and it went so fast that it just in the air the dust was all sprayed. Spurt of gravel means gravel is fine sand. Elseville Way, McLeery had said, and there it was staring up at the governor from the last few lines of the German text. From Elseville Way, drive to Headington roundabout. So in the question paper only, all the instruction was given that from Elseville Way, drive to Headington roundabout, where, yes, of course, the exam, now the governor understands that the examination board was in the Elseville Way, and the secretary of the examination board was also an accomplice of Evans. Elseville Way, and someone from the board must have been involved in the escape. Now the governor was asking that Elseville Way, there only the office of the examination board was located. So the governor understands that from the board also someone must have been involved in the escape of Evans. The question paper itself, the correction, now he is all understanding that the question paper itself was a fake one, correction slip was the fake one, and there was some involvement of the examination board office. The governor turned to Jackson and Stephens. I don't need to tell you what's happened, do I? His voice sounded almost calm in its scathing contempt. That is, scathing means very severe. Contempt means to show disrespect towards his other junior officers, that is Stephenson and Jackson. And which one of you two morons? Morons means a stupid person. Was it who took Evans for a nice little walk to the main gates and waved him bye-bye? So governor is asking who was between the two who had taken Evans to the gate and said bye-bye. Now see, governor has still not understood that Evans was the one who was impersonating McLeery, and the person who went out within the gate with Stephens was actually the real McLeery only. It was me, sir, stammered Stephens. Just like you told me, sir, I could have sworn. What? Just like I told you? What you say? What the hell? So Stephens said that as you told to escort McLeery to the main gate, he had done the same thing. At this, the governor was astonished. He was surprised. He said, what the hell? Had he actually made a call? It was not. The call was from the examination board who was helping Evans to escape. When you rang, sir, and told me to, when was that? The governor's voice was a whiplash now. That is, it was a whiplash means it was a very sudden shout of the governor. You know, sir, about 20 past 11 just before. You blithering idiot man, it wasn't me who rang you. Don't you realize? But what was the use? He had used the telephone at that time, but only to try unsuccessfully once more to get through to the examination board. So governor very well understands that for the second time when he had wanted to call, it was useless because it was a false call. He shook his head in growing despair and turned on the senior prison officer. As for you, Jackson, how long have you been pretending you have got a brain, eh? Well, I'll tell you something, Jackson, your skull's empty. Now the governor is showing his anger on the subordinates. He is telling to Jackson that his head is fully empty. Skull is empty means his head is empty. Absolutely empty. It was Jackson who had spent 2 hours in Evans' cell the previous evening. So the governor also reminds him that Jackson was there in the Evans' cell in the previous evening and was making all the check. It was Jackson who had confidently reported that there was nothing hidden away there. Nothing at all. And yet Evans had somehow managed to conceal not only what all he had concealed, what all he had hidden: a false beard, alright, a pair of spectacles, a dog collar, and all the rest of his clerical paraphernalia. Paraphernalia means the accessories, what you have for the help of some object, but also some sort of weapon with which he had given McLeery such a terrible blow across the head. So the governor was thinking that Evans also had a kind of a weapon with which McLeery had a terrible blow across the head. Arg. A prison van blocked alongside, but the governor made no immediate move. He looked down again at the last line of the German, to the Headington roundabout, where you go straight over and make your way to the Neugraben. Neugraben? What on earth? Knew something. So the prison backed alongside, and the governor saw the last instruction that the vehicle has to go towards the Headington roundabout. And what was the name? Neugraben. Neugraben? Never heard of it. So what was that name? Neugraben. There was Wargrave, of course, there somewhere near Reading. Reading is a place. But no, it was not, probably a code word. So the governor very well understand that it is a code word, and then it hit him. Newbury? So New Wargrave means bury. With it he could assimilate that it was Newbury. God, yes, Newbury was a pretty big sort of a place, but so they understand that Newbury Street was a very important place of the town. He rapped out his orders to the driver. St. Aldate's police station. Now the governor rapped out means he gave the orders to the driver, take him to the St. Aldate's police station and step on it. That is, step on it means to be very fast. So here, very fast. Take Jackson and Stephens here, and when you get there, ask for whom? Ask for Bell, the Chief Inspector Bell. Got that? So now the governor is trying to put in his action. But what? Both of them have gone out. McLeery in the first round, and Evans also escaped from the prison under the very nose of the prison officers. So students, I hope you have understood till here. I will continue, and please read the other 3 parts to understand this part 4. After this, I will take another part and thus conclude the chapter. So students, if you like my explanation, then please like, share and subscribe the channel. So see you soon with the concluding part of this story.